All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of our Google Partners Northern Europe News Bulletin. I'm Alexandra. I work as an account strategist for the Google Marketing Solutions team for the Belgian market, and I'm here with Oscar.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Oscar, and I work for the Dutch sales team at Google.
Cool. Yeah, and we're very happy that you're still joining us, although it's very tropical degrees in all of our regions at the moment. So I know it's an investment, and we're very happy that you joined us today to talk about a couple of things. So as we've mentioned in the past couple of news bulletins, we are working with certain themes and topics at the moment. And the one for this month has been automation. So we've had a couple of automation news bulletin going on, and this is sadly the last one purely dedicated to automation. But of course, since it's kind of the backbone of everything we do, it will come back. You're not getting rid of automation. It is the future. So this is the last one really dedicated to automation. We are starting a new topic starting from next news bulletin, but I will not spoil it. You have to go to the website to find out what it is, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. So today we'll be talking about the automation, kind of round it up, and also kind of take a step back when it comes to really how do you set up an account or an optimal structure that is performance oriented when it comes to automation. We'll go through a case as we do, and then give you a couple of product updates that have come out in the past 2 weeks. Yes. As per usual, we'll keep some time for questions, and you can actually send your questions anytime. This is a live feed. There were a couple of questions about that last week or 2 weeks ago, so this is a live feed. We see your questions coming in, and if we are the most appropriate people to answer them, we will. Cool. So let's get right into it. Automation. When we're talking about automation, there's really like 4 pillars you can look at. Bidding is a big one and is the one that we've been discussing a lot in the past news bulletins, both on across platforms, really, on search, on display, and even on YouTube now. So smart bidding, optimized bidding is a big part of automation. Another big part is, I'll go right down, is targeting. And that's something that's going to come up in the future, but it's also, of course, something we touch upon quite a while. Attribution, of course. And then something that is sometimes a little bit not talked about enough are actually the creatives, right? Because you can both automate creatives or work with creatives that are going to be the most suited for your automated strategy. So those are the 4 pillars. But next to that, there's really another basic thing that we wanted to touch upon today, and that's account structure. I'll show you something that will be recognizable with a lot of you, since a lot of you are either agencies or freelancers working in AdWords accounts on a daily basis. When you start an account, you usually have that one first campaign that then becomes 3 campaigns, that then became 6 campaigns, and then 8 and 12 and so on. It's kind of like, I guess, a way of thought or a certain school that was quite popular at the beginning of SAA was to have very highly targeted and segmented campaigns, and to have could have different factors to decide on what to segment it with. So we could segment on the type of keywords, segment on the type of audience, segment on the type of bidding strategy. The point is, and there's no right or wrong here. The question that we want to ask today is, what is the most suited way to structure that account when it comes to automation? And there's one thing that we know for sure is that automation actually works the best with larger data sets. So the more input you put into an account, the more it has like food to learn from, the more it has input to learn from and to optimize itself. And that's the whole machine learning part. So we wanted to kind of take a look at how you could consolidate some campaigns to make sure that you actually have just these larger data sets. So there are a couple of things you can look at if you want to consolidate campaigns. One is, for example, audiences. If we're talking about audience lists, and I'm really particularly talking about audiences used for the search network here, it's actually really just fine to add your different audience lists into one campaign, and especially then if you do that, to choose a campaign that has the highest amount of volume or traffic, so that you also have the highest possible reach for those audience lists to grow from. This is different, of course, on display. This is, of course, different depending on your strategy. If you have like very specialized messaging that needs to be shown to only one type of audience. But otherwise, if you're really just trying to do a general remarketing or a general similar audience strategy, it's actually fine to do that within one campaign.
Sure.
If you were to do that and you switch it as per usual, there's one thing to switch strategies. It's another thing to analyze its results. So please take into account the conversion cycle that happens into that account before you actually assess like the pre and post results. That's always quite important. Same thing with devices. You can actually add all devices into an existing campaign that has a lot of volume. Something that we recommend now, and that we see that it used to happen a lot in the past, was to have minus 100% bid adjustment or bid modifiers on certain devices. It's actually much more optimized or ideal when it comes to output to use smart bidding that will take into account device as a signal rather than work with manual bid modifiers.
Sure.
So that's an important to look at. The third one is one that I found actually quite important because I see it a lot into accounts is you will see like one campaign that actually became 3 campaigns because it has a certain match type in mind for each campaign. So you will have exact only campaigns. You will have bid modifier. No, what am I saying? Campaigns, and you will have like phrase match campaigns. Broad modifier. Sorry, I was losing the word. So that's something that used to be done because it does give you a lot of control on the CPCs, but it doesn't always give you actually the best conversion volume or results. So it's a good thing to kind of reanalyze that. Does that still make sense within an account to have all those separated? It might also be an idea to just combine at least your broad and phrase match into single campaigns, because then again, smart bidding and other smart solutions that we have will take that into account automatically.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
Same thing with location. Location is actually quite similar when it comes as to what I mentioned with devices. Instead of working with modifiers, also location will just taken into account by smart bidding solutions. So that's just a couple of like pointers. If you have any other like suggestions or best practices in your own agency or just experience when it comes to account structure, we're always happy to hear it.
Yeah, true. And one thing that I would like to add is also just look as a business at what are your business goals. So for example, I had a client who was having different recruitment campaigns for different locations. So he needed employees, but he had different locations of his company. So obviously he targeted his video campaigns location-wise. So just ask yourself for every campaign, what is the goal of this campaign and what is the smartest way to divide it? And because there's really no right or wrong answer. There's just a lot of different ways that you can target.
Exactly.
Just depending on the goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just following a structure, because a lot of people do, is like never a good way to go about. So tying it back to business needs and objectives is always key. Then next to that, if you do kind of reconsolidate an account or optimize this in such a way that it's automation, prefer for automation, you actually have a couple of benefits. So the first one, as mentioned before, from working with larger data sets, it actually helps you manage a couple of things more easily. Like, for example, negative keywords list that you can actually then still already apply like on account level or on particular campaign level instead of having to work from ad group to ad group, for example. You also will get fewer ads and extensions to maintain. Although I would also add here that it's always interesting to see if you can work with a feed when it comes to extensions, because then you're also bringing in really the automated aspect, or work with dynamic search ads as well. Or with a couple of ad customizers like keyword insertions or if functions, so that you will still have fewer ads, but they are highly personalized because they are also automated in that way. Doing that will enable you to identify insights, things that work less, and therefore also help you make a decision when it comes to your creatives. So that's only beneficial, of course, to your account, and then the required output after that. And then lastly, what we wanted to also kind of like drive home when it comes to automation, since this is our last automation session, let's say, is we know it's a tricky step to take as an agency or as an advertiser to go fully automated. I think what's important is to really make sure that we are talking about the same thing when it comes to automation. For us, automation is really an added layer that should be present in any account. Whether it be just a search account or just paid advertising in general. So when I'm talking about an extra layer, there's really 3 layers you could or you should always recognize in any account. The first one should be one of creation. So imagine that you start an account for the first time, an account that has no keywords, no conversion volumes, no data, no creatives. Of course, it makes sense to go manual because you need to have a feel of those CPCs, a feel of that industry, of that auction intensity. So manual is more logical with the creation layer within an account, and goes with that then of course more manual inputs of keywords and just regular creatives. So that should be like the prime first layer of an account, the creation part. Like how do we actually create something or get our first ads out there? The second layer should be one of an experimental one. So you have the base, you're covering your bases, you know the basics, and then how do you actually go a step further? So how do you find new ads? How do you put a new product into the market? How do you maybe tap into a new audience? How do you segment or go after a niche audience and go on a highly like relevant track on that part? That should be an experiment layer. And then again, there's a bidding strategy that's more fitting for that layer. And then automation should be everything else. So everything that is not the creation part, not the experiment part, that is really kind of business as usual, day-to-day ad business, could and should be automated. And that's the way we look at it. And that's when you get to look at all types of solutions and features that we have that will just really free up time to be able to do things that are more high value. We noted a couple of them down. Of course, it's just an example. But if you automate like 80% of an account, and imagine that the rest of that account is then the creation experimentation part, you get more time to be involved in strategic discussions, to be involved in thought leadership, testing of more new features, new creatives. So that's kind of like in one slide our view on automation. And I think it's kind of a nice little conclusion to the whole automation track I've been having. And to that, we actually have a pretty cool case that it actually just shows exactly what I just mentioned.
Yeah, true. Very well said. And I think that's so key of automation, to be able to focus your efforts into more high level discussions and action points. So a really great example of this is Helloprint, actually a really cool company from the Netherlands, my home country. And they're a good example of a company who used AdWords automation to take their online marketing really to the next level. So just quickly about Helloprint, what do? They basically print everything from reports to business cards. And their goal or their mission statement is also to make printing easier for everyone everywhere around the country. And they really wanted to improve efficiency due to the vast product portfolio expansion. So they launched a lot of new products and they wanted to launch them as efficiently as possible. So they knew that automation was the way to go. So what did they do? What was the approach? They tried four methods, basically. The first one was AdWords Smart Bidding. So what they did was set up a couple of A/B tests. So as you also mentioned, experimenting is key also with automation. They saw the uplift in conversions and they decided to go for it and expand Smart Bidding account-wise. They also used ad customizers. So ad customizers, they adapt the text of your search ads to the search query, to the location of the searcher, to the date of the searcher, for example, or the time of the day. So to make the search ads really personalized for each and every searcher. Then they also started dynamic search ads or DSA campaigns. DSA campaigns basically used the page feed, so it scrubs your pages, it scrubs your website, and then rapidly, and then actually you could see it as a bucket that fills in the gaps of all the keywords that you didn't think of before. So you let it run parallel to your normal search ads, and you let the DSA find all the keywords that you're not bidding on yet, based on the text that is already on your website.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this way, they were really able to launch 1,500 new products across 8 different markets in a really fast and time-efficient time, which is obviously crazy.
That's insane. Can you just imagine having to just create ad groups for every type of new product that you're launching?
Exactly.
Like that takes a team of 50 people.
That would take so much time. So that was the perfect method for that.
Cool.
And then finally, they used the Smart District campaign. We touched upon this 2 weeks ago. And the Smart District campaign was very successful. It was actually their first ROI positive display campaign, which is actually really cool if you think about that display is quite upper funnel. So that was really interesting. The results were striking. So they were able to double their conversions and lower their cost per acquisition with 53%. So I think if you look at these results, you can definitely say their automation efforts were very successful. And I think that Sanne van Bremen, the team lead PPC of Helloprint, summarized it very well. She said, "We want to be able to understand the full digital journey of the customer, then create tailor-made advertisements and product offerings that match their needs and desires. Automation will allow us to do that scalably across all the countries we're active in." And I think she summarizes it so well, how you can use automation to scale up really quickly, but at the same time keep that personalization and keep having very personalized ads for every different searcher. With, for example, the dynamic search ads or the ad customizers are a great example.
Exactly. And I think it's also really cool for such an international company to be able to just centralize their whole effort, because they have these tools and applications that just work across all like elements, different countries, different devices, and so on. So that's actually really cool. Well done, Helloprint.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our product updates. So it's actually a good thing we were just talking about dynamic search ads because we just launched 2 new targeting options within those dynamic search ads, and then we will be talking about ad suggestions, which is also quite new. So first of all, dynamic search ads, there's really like a bunch of different ways you can target, and I'm talking about targeting, I'm mostly targeting it about the URLs and the website information you want to use within those ads. So there's a bunch of different options. The one we just added is one where you will use the same landing pages that already have been used in that account in different ad groups, across all ad groups actually. And it will also be the first suggestion when you're starting a new dynamic search ad campaign or ad group. So the cool thing here is that it's actually, we talk about a dynamic search ad a lot as like an extra safety net where you can really catch a bunch of queries that you did not anticipate before in the account. And if you choose to start that ad group with URLs that have already been used or landing pages that have already been used in the account, you're really driving that safety net strategy in the sense that you're just really looking at how do I get like full coverage of those ad group URLs that are important to me, because obviously you've been advertising on them in the past. So that's actually quite cool, and you can also see the website coverage of certain all of those URLs when you're setting it up. Yeah,
there's a lot of interesting metaphors for DSA campaigns. The one that I always like to use is that it's kind of like a bucket that like it kind of how do you say it? It grasps all the keywords that you haven't thought of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Or safety nets. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. And I think what's striking to me is that when you think about queries, about 15% of all the queries that we get on our Google platform are actually new to us every single day. That's because people are finding new ways to look for something, maybe voice search, or they have another way of just looking for information. And it's very difficult to anticipate for this, although you might have actually what they need on your website. And that's where dynamic search ads comes in. So I think that's really cool. And usually they also have a great CTR because it's just really relevant ads, of course.
Exactly.
So that's really nice. And if you want to drive that relevancy even further, then you can find another targeting option, which is the URL is or URL contains targeting option. So that one is much more specific because then you have to really tell the system which URLs to look at. And we actually added a little scale for you there down there. for you to be able to organize the different types of targeting options that we have available within dynamic search ads. So the one with the least amount of reach but the most amount of control is this new targeting type, the URL is, and the one with the most amount of reach is just across all web pages, which makes sense, which was actually the very first targeting option that was available. So most of you will be familiar with this one. And then the most neutral type of way to go about is with this targeting option that I just announced as well, the one with existing landing pages of one that you've been using in the past. So it's interesting to see that even with one solution like dynamic search ads, you can really have different types of benefits, different types of applications to it, whether you want to really be that safety net for an existing strategy that's already present to your account, if you want to target maybe a new part of the website, new URLs, or if you want to just make sure that you catch all queries, then you go all web pages. So that's really interesting, and I think we'll be talking about dynamic search ads a lot more in the future because there's a lot to do there.
Definitely.
Talking about ads,
another newly launched feature of AdWords, which was in beta for a long time. It was launched on the 30th of April, are the ad suggestions. And ad suggestions are basically variations of your ads based on existing information. So it looks at your headlines or also information of the ads landing page. And basically what AdWords does is it generates, based on this information, new ad content, so search ad content that it thinks will be relevant and will have a high quality score and will drive you performance.
Exactly. And the reason we're doing this is actually kind of to tie back to our very first point of the news bulletin, is that the more data or the more information, the more inventory there's in an account, the better it will perform. So we're giving you the suggestions to kind of enable you to have more ads within an account, which will enable you to match more queries and for us to really find that one ad that is matching that one query. So
exactly. It is always recommended to, for every ad group, at least have 3 ads.
Exactly.
And also, indeed, if you have more ad content, then the ad suggestion tool will also have more ads text to base the suggestions on.
Exactly.
And more data is more performance. It was launched on 30th of April. One word of caution, is actually still only available in 6 languages. It's available in English, Spanish, Portuguese, German, French, and Italian. And we're currently working on the other languages, but these are the ones that are that is currently for. So it's actually kind of, you could see it as a first step to bringing your ads into the machine learning world. So it's the first step where you can actually make new ads that are really based on machine learning data and on algorithms. How it works is that for these languages, AdWords will automatically, when it sees that there will be a performance boost from a suggested ad, it will automatically suggest it to you. There's 2 ways where you can be notified. One is per email. So it will send an email to the email address that is linked to your AdWords account and give you notice and say like, hey, we've made a suggestion for you. We really think that this ad will improve performance. Please double check. And also in AdWords itself, on the top right-hand corner, you will have a notification icon where it will also say, okay, we made a new suggestion. The ad suggestions will automatically go live within 14 days if the client takes no, or if the advertiser takes no action to apply or dismiss a suggestion. So always keep in mind the notification box. 14 days is still a long time, but it will automatically go live. But it will only really make the suggestions if AdWords thinks, according to the algorithms, that it will boost performance. And as I said before, it will create those ads, those search ads based on the information you've provided in your existing ads. And basically, the 2 biggest pros, or the 2 biggest the benefits in these things of ad suggestions are that it's, one, very time saving, so you don't have to think of ads all by yourself or to A/B test different ad context anymore. It already does that for you and it gives you the most optimal ad text. And also, because of that, boost performance automatically. So it's a really cool new tool. It was launched on the 30th of April and now available for the 6 languages I just mentioned. Yeah,
and the reason we're bringing it up is also because the rest of the languages are going to be coming soon. So French-speaking Belgium, you have a preview if you want to already start using them. And it's also a good reminder, maybe a bit admin-oriented, to make sure that the contact information in your account is up to date. We say it a lot, but that's the way to make sure that you're the first one in the know for these type of things.
Exactly.
All right, so that was kind of it from our side. From what I can see right now, we don't really have any questions. Hi, Raoul. It's very
Hi,
nice
Raoul.
to say hi. Everyone's always welcome to say hi.
Yes, definitely.
But I think that we will not be getting any questions, which is fine, because we will be back in 2 weeks with a brand new topic, and we will be looking forward to seeing you there.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.